back to my channel. If you guys have been watching my repaint videos for a while, then you know that I kind of go into repaints pretty vague. I just kind of have like a vague idea of what I want to do, and then it kind of just develops from there. So this repaint, alright, so I wanted to make like a really pale doll. So like pale skin, like white hair. I wanted to use like lacy fabric and pearls and stuff. So I know that sounds so vague, I know. But that was my whole thought process going into this doll. I had a couple dolls that I could choose from for this project, but I don't quite know how to explain this. I'm gonna try. I've been sort of into the idea of repainting dolls that I wasn't initially drawn to at first. So when it comes to like dolls to repaint, I'm very initially drawn to cute face molds. So like Dracula, Frankie, Laguna, they all have like cute little chubby faces. They're adorable. They just really inspire me. A face mold that I wasn't as into at all at first was Ghoulia's, because she's pretty, you know, like she definitely is, but she has like a kind of pointier face, and her eyes are a little bit like sunken in, and I just wasn't really sure what I was gonna do with it, like her face mold. But I have like 5 of her. She comes in like every single Monster High doll lot that I get online, so I was like, I need to do something with them. And again, I've been really kind of inspired to work on dolls that I'm not initially drawn to. With all of that being said, let's get into prepping the doll. We start with the usual of cutting all her hair off, and then putting her head in hot water to pop her head off, scraping the inside of her head with a screwdriver to get all the glue gunk out, and then pulling all the glue out through the neck hole with pliers. Once her head's all nice and clean, I just take some nail polish remover and take all her factory paint off. We're going to be rerooting with 100% acrylic yarn. How I do that is I take this white yarn, again I'm making a pale lady so her hair is white, and I just kind of like eyeball it a little bit. I'm cutting off strands of it. I could just wrap around something like a lot of people do and have them all consistent, but your girl's a mess, so I'm just kind of eyeballing the size of these strands, and then I am looping it around this black thing. And once I get like a ton of those, at this point I kind of know how many I need because I've done this a couple times. But yeah, I loop it around this black thing, and then I take my cat hair brush and I start from the bottom and I start to brush out all of the strands. Since I'm rerooting, I have to paint her scalp, so I'm painting it white. And this just makes it so that if there's any like gaps in the rerooting, or like maybe a bald spot or something, it's not as noticeable because it's all the same color. This is what it looks like after I'm done painting her scalp, and it still kind of amazes me how lovely the Monster High sculpts are. Like, it's just sad kind of, like that they get covered up with paint. You can just tell whoever was in charge of that department at Mattel, they just actually cared. Anyway, beautiful sculpt aside, I did a couple things to the hair off camera, because I forgot to film it, I'm sorry. But I just straightened it with a hair straightener, and then I let it soak in fabric softener for about 10 minutes. And then I washed it with baby shampoo, and then I let it dry. I did the fabric softener because it makes the yarn hair just a little bit sleeker, and I like how it looks a little bit better. But yeah, so to get the full length of the yarn, you know how like with nylon doll hair, or I don't know, whatever kind of doll hair that you use, you wrap it in half? With the yarn, I only do the very tippy top and kind of bend that over the reroot tool so I get the full length of the yarn. I hope that makes sense, but if it was a little bit confusing and you guys have any questions, leave those down below. After all that rerooting, we take some Fabri-Tac glue and I squeeze it into the neck hole and kind of like wiggle it around violently. And that just sets all the hair in place so it doesn't fall out. I spray the doll 3 times in Mr. Super Clear, letting it dry for 15 minutes between each spray. And then I start with the eyes. So I usually start face-ups with the eyes because I think they're the most important part of the face when it comes to art. And I also really like drawing them. But yeah, so I've seen quite a few Ghoulia face-ups. I was like looking them up before repainting this doll. And I feel like smaller eyes look the best on her, so I decided to give my Ghoulia some smaller eyes. like my dolls to have like a flushed look, so I applied copious amounts of pink pastels all around her face. When shading around her face, I decided to go in with like a purple pastel or like a lavender pastel as opposed to a gray pastel. I feel like a gray pastel is what people would initially think to shade her face in with, but I feel like that would look a little bit too harsh for her, at least the vibe that I'm trying to go with this doll. Okay, so her eyebrows, I was originally gonna do like pale everything, pale eyebrows, pale eyelashes, but I just love me a dramatic brow. So I gave her some dramatic black brows, and might I say goals, like I just really like how they turned out. Yeah, I just really like them. I also decided to make her looking off to the side because I haven't done that with a doll yet, and I just thought I should do that with a doll, you know? Just like a little tip that I don't think I've ever mentioned before on my channel, but you see this right here, the doll is flipped upside down. Sometimes I do that because it helps me make her face a little bit more even, and also it's easier to draw things. So I'm right-handed and it makes it easier to draw things on my left side, right? Yes, my left side. Yeah, so a little tip. With a light blue watercolor pencil, I shade in the whites of her eyes. I do this where the top lid meets the whites of the eyes because there would be a shadow there, probably. Something I do with the iris when it comes to shading in the colors is, so in this case I used a dark blue to shade in the light blue of the eyes. I go in with a corresponding pastel, so a dark blue pastel, and I lay that down on top of the watercolor pencil, and it just helps the light blue and the dark blue blend together. With a white watercolor pencil, we're adding highlights all around the eyes, so I do this on the top lid, in the inner corner, on the lower lash line. I just really think it brings the eyes together and makes it look like they have more of a 3D look. I decided to outline her iris with a red watercolor pencil. I don't know why, it was a choice. It was a choice. And then I took some black pastel and I put this on the whites of her eyes. The key to doing this is to using like literally the tiniest brush you own. You need to use like a very tiny brush to do this, or else it's gonna be a mess. And then veins. I love me some veins on dolls, so I'm adding them with a light blue watercolor pencil. A step that I love doing, and I highly recommend if you guys want your dolls to look kind of like glittery and ethereal, is using pearlex pigments. I particularly love the macro white pearlex pigment. It's just kind of like chunkier glitter that's not too chunky. It's cute. With a Q-tip and a blue pearlex pigment, I just tapped this on her pupil. I like how it looks. I just feel like it gives the pupils and like the eyes in general a little bit more depth. It's something I've been digging lately. Taking my black watercolor pencil, I wet it a little bit with a paintbrush, and then I'm going over the lashes and also the brow hair. I like doing this. It's not like super necessary, but I like doing this because I feel like it makes that area particularly dark, and it really just draws the eyes in those areas. It is kind of difficult though. I need to use like my teeniest brush and like hold my breath. The very last thing that I start to do for face ups is I start to add the more intense highlight. So what I do for that is I wet a white watercolor pencil and I go for the Cupid's bow. I add a highlight there. I put 2 little dots on the cheeks because I think it looks cute. I add one in the inner corner of the eyes, the waterline, the whites of the eyes, and also the catch lights. By the way, I don't know if this is worth mentioning, but I'm gonna mention it, just like kind of a little tip, is at this point when I start going in with paint, like wet paint, I take off my glove because I am wiping the paint off on my hand so that I only have like the perfect amount of paint to go in on the face, because with doll faces, since they're so tiny, it can just look really thick really fast and just get really intense and look too thick. So that's what I do. This is her finished face up, and I feel so rude because I love Ghoulia now. And at first I was like, her face is too pointy, her eyes are too sunken in. No, she's hella cute, and I loved painting her. Anyway, with Vallejo gloss varnish, I put that on her lips. I also put it on her eyes, but I wait until after photos because when you put it on the eyes, it makes it really difficult to catch all of the details that you painted on. So I do that after photos. For some reason, I lost the footage of me putting these pearls on her face, but I just took some like super mini half-back pearls that you can get at pretty much any craft store, I believe, and I put those on her face with Elmer's glue wall. I prepped the body as per usual by sanding off the panties and taking a utility knife and scraping off the seam lines, and then I blushed the body with some pastels, basically the same pastels that I used in the face, like the same colors I used on the body. Let's talk about clothes. So I had a very specific idea in mind for this dress. I didn't know, like I was sure there wasn't any kind of pattern online for this specific dress, so I wanted to try my hand at making my own pattern. So I wrapped her body in plastic wrap, and then I wrapped some scotch tape around the plastic wrap to get the top pattern for the top part of the dress. For the skirt part of the dress, I wanted the back to be lower than the front, and I don't have that part on the pattern. I just kind of like cut the fabric that way. And then I wanted the sleeves to be off the shoulder, and I wanted there to be tons of ruffles just all over this dress. I wanted to decorate the dress with pearls, but I only had a very small amount of these super tiny pearls, which sucked because I wanted to put more of those in the dress. So I had to incorporate the super tiny pearls and then more of my medium-sized pearls that I have. But I think it ended up looking pretty cute with a mishmash of pearls. I attached all the pearls to the dress with my Fabri-Tac glue. I wanted to make her an underskirt. So I have this crochet ribbon thing that I got from Daiso, and I just made her a little skirt with it. I just like wrapped it around, then sewed it and put it up underneath her dress. And it's cute. Now onto the hair. So I wanted to do two things. I wanted to experiment with curling yarn hair because I've never done that before. And I also wanted to give this lady some beachy waves because she's given me some like mermaid who just got her legs and she walked out of the ocean vibes. That's the vibe I'm getting from her. So I took this like rod, I don't know what it's made out of, but I thought it would work. And I wrapped her hair around it, and then I took my hair iron and I just kind of like wrapped it around and then put my iron on her. And it gave me curls. It worked out pretty well. This is the end result and I'm digging it. I'm also wearing a cat onesie in this shot, if you can tell. Now for my personal favorite step, and that is putting her head back on her body. I heated up the vinyl of her head a little bit with a blow dryer, and then I just put her head back on, and here she is. So this is her completed outfit, and I decided to opt out of shoes because she's giving me that whole like siren mermaid lady who just like got her legs vibes, and I feel like mermaid ladies who just get their legs probably have no idea what shoes are. So yeah. Anyway guys, this is her finished look. I'm so happy with her. I don't know, I just really like lace, and I really like pearls, and I'm happy with how she turned out, and I'm like pleasantly surprised with painting a Ghoulia. I don't know why I thought it would be like a negative experience, because whenever I repaint a doll, it's never really a negative experience, but I just didn't really know what to expect because I was like meh about her face sculpt, but her face is so cute. I'm so stupid. I hope you guys like how she turned out. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. Like this video if you like this video, subscribe, it makes me happy, and I hope you guys are having a beautiful day.